I'd like to say we're saving the best for last. And for all, that's not really true. Yeah, it is actually. It is absolutely true. So if those that are going to stay with us, if you could have a seat, we would just love for you to join us today. We are actually been told that we are going to stop a little bit before 6, which I think people will probably say yes for that. But I have to tell you, you're in for a treat today. We are bringing together. Sorry, if we could just get folks to come or go and have a seat, that would be great. Because today we have... There is no PowerPoint from us. No, we've had this conference. It's all good. We're all good. Arigato gozaimasu. Today, we're not going to do presentations. We are going to have what I call a fireside chat. We don't have any fires behind us or fireplaces, and it's too hot. But today, we are going to have a conversation with some pretty impressive people, some leaders that I'll introduce to you in just a second. Yes, you all are the impressive people. I just want to say to you just some observations that I've noticed being in Japan. And I've been in Japan for a week now, before the expo, before our sessions starting on Wednesday. And one of the things I really noticed about Japan was they actually live safety and health, and public safety and health, which I think translates probably to their workers as well. But if anyone's had the opportunity to ride any trains or the metros here in Japan, they have barriers. So there's no possibility for someone to get in a train incident and fall through any barriers. Very impressive. If you've been in a cab or a taxi since you've been here, you'll see that the door that opens out into the highway does not open. You have to go out to the door in a safe way. And those are two simple examples. And from an environmental perspective and a sustainability perspective, I have to tell you, I live in the United States in the New York and New Jersey area, and we have 3 different areas that you can do your recycling. Well, if you went to the expo, I think there's 7 different types of recycling, which is really, really impressive. So I just want to say that, I think we all have so much to learn from one another in terms of health, in terms of safety and environmental, both in our companies as well as outside of our organizations. And from my perspective, we have pulled together a panel today, a multinational panel. We have folks that are from Germany, but actually from Latin America originally, right? So we were getting all the continents. We have from the UK, 2 folks from the UK, and we have a gentleman from Japan who's going to give us a Japanese perspective on things. And I'm the token American, but I know nothing. All right, so what I'd like to do, just really briefly, Andresa Hernandez, we are so delighted you're here today. And Andresa had just a little background to give you the wealth of experience coming here today. Over 20 years of experience in EHS, chemical engineer by education, has been with Siemens for 15 years and is currently the global vice president of safety. And she's based in Munich, and we are so delighted to have her here today. Stuart Hughes is a chartered fellow of the Institution of Occupational Health and Safety, known as IOSH, and over 20 years of experience as an OSH professional, joining us today. Currently, he's the head of health and safety for Mercedes, AMG Petronas Formula One. I say this because I don't know about anyone else, but that's really cool. He has probably one of the coolest jobs of all of us. So I'll give you the little plug that you put in here because I think this is cool too. So the Formula One team has won 8 consecutive world championships and 7 consecutive driver world championships. So any Formula One folks out there, he's your man. And Becky Hickman, we are delighted to have you here as well. Becky is the Chief Executive Officer of RoSPA, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents. And she brings over 20 years experience and a strong communications background to shaping a distinct, sustainable approach to safety. And we're going to hear all about that today. And then Kazu. We are very lucky to have you today. We are very lucky. Kazu is both quality and EHS head for Japan for L'Oreal, the L'Oreal plug here. And he pairs the mind of a licensed industrial hygienist and engineer with the eye of a cosmetics concierge. I love this. Using 20 years of medical device experience to build a sustainable future at L'Oreal. And it's driven by data, driven by AI, and servant leadership. So ties right into the session we had a little bit earlier today. So now you know why we are really lucky to have this particular panel. And we're going to just have an opportunity to ask some open-ended questions. And we're going to kind of really open this to the group. So along the way, if you have questions, please feel free, just raise your hand. And we're going to kind of make this a really nice dialogue for everybody together. So we have all of our folks up here. We're going to cover 2 questions today. As we got together before this, we thought, what is it that would be really interesting for people to know? And we thought, okay, some of us have constraints with our companies, and we talk on behalf of our companies, but we also wanted to talk about a personal perspective on health and safety. So I'm just going to start at the beginning and start with Becky, if you would give us your perspective, and you're going to get it from everyone, your perspective, your personal perspective on the actual value of health and safety for people at work.
Thank you, Kathy. For me, it's simple. Every accident is preventable, and every preventable accident wastes the most valuable capital an organisation has, their human capital. If you have an employee injured or worse, there's huge ripple effects in terms of productivity, morale, and those things really affect an enterprise's ability to innovate and to grow. So a truly sustainable business model does, in my opinion, demand a whole person, whole life approach to safety. Safety both at work, on the clock, and safety outside of work as well. That is a principle that RoSPA, my organisation, has championed for over 100 years. In that time, we have been responsible for laws like the mandatory use of seatbelts, also campaigned successfully for fire retardant furniture, for fitted plug sockets, a whole raft of measures. And in fact, later on today, there's a debate happening in the Houses of Parliament in the United Kingdom, which has been called for RoSPA, and that is demanding that the government get together and debate our call for a national accident prevention strategy based from the fact that our research has found in the last decade, there has been a 42% increase in accidental deaths in the UK alone. So we are saying to the government that is unacceptable. This calls for a strategic national emergency response. And today, this very afternoon, that debate is happening in the Houses of Parliament. Obviously, there is nowhere I would rather be than here with you people. However, if I wasn't here, I'd most certainly be there. So that is an example of who we are and what we do. The reason why I think this cross-sectoral approach is just so important is the fact that 80% of fatal accidents to working age people happen outside of their workplaces. So to put that another way, 4 out of every 5 preventable accidents that robs organisations of the talent and of their people occurs outside their actual premises. And that's why I think it's so important that we have that broad mindset when we come to challenge this issue. If you then add in the kind of the silent injuries, so mental health, long COVID, the ageing population, all of these mean that our traditional OSH programmes aren't necessarily sufficient to deliver the resilient workforce that current and future society demands from us. I think that safety is a strategic enabler of a sustainable performance of an organisation. But I think that organisations that extend their duty of care beyond the workplace realise huge dividends from doing so. So, for example, a programme that we've done quite recently was involving working with an organisation called Severn Trent, who are, they supply water to 5 million homes in the UK. They're a large utilities firm. And they felt that their fall prevention programmes had kind of plateaued, that people were a bit blasé, a bit bored with the messaging. They weren't really getting any particular engagement. So we worked with them to add a different element into their fall prevention programmes, where we also talked about the falls that affect their family members, particularly those in later life or those in their early years, falls outside of the workplace. And even though the programmes were delivered to them at work during their work time, as part of their core roles, the benefit of that was not only better skilled and more aware employees, but there was a real kind of knock-on effect that they felt more emotionally connected with the safety campaigns, with the falls campaigns that their organisation were running, and they felt increased morale and just more valued as employees. So I think there's a real sort of circular benefit to adopting this cross-sectoral approach when it comes to looking at health and safety. And ultimately, I think that all of this is about us moving closer to this UN vision of health, well-being and decent work for everyone. So that's my 2 pence worth, Kathy.
I love it. I love it. This is excellent. All righty. Would you like to pass on to Kazoo?
Thank you, Casey and Becky. And you almost told everything. So let me talk about Japanese context. About the safety and health in a workplace. At the very beginning, Japanese has kind of set of mind of animism. It's we think everything has a spirit, like stones, wood, big wood, like Hitachi wood, and then also has anyone go to the shrine or temple in Japan? So it's a lot of holy things around the shrine, and we believe they have 8 million God. Number of God, it's not a Christian, it's Christianity. So we are everything mixed culture and religion, and from that context, the safety is not to control by the human for many years until now. And then when you go to the shrine, and you can find the lucky charm or talisman to buy, to play the safety, because dangerous is come from the devil or evil, or let's say impurity. For a recent story, until 10 years ago, 10 years before, the woman cannot get into the construction area of the tunnel in the mountains, because it's believed it's not, how can I say, impurity. I'm not sure the exact wording, but such kind of, the myth is everywhere in Japan. From that context, the recent ISO 45001 structure or management system is we are trying to install our companies or organization, but it's not so mature because our operation system is too old, and the application is latest, So it is really hard to install, let's say Windows 3.1. So, but the Office 365 cannot install to the Windows 3.1.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is happening at the moment in Japan. We are trying to throw it. However, now we are making how we upgrade our operation system to install that latest management system to risk assessment, such kind of mindset. That's my answer.
Thank you. Kazuo and I had an opportunity to speak last evening about this very topic.
Yes.
And one of the things that really came to mind for me and for many of you all that are working internationally or in a multinational company is that, you know, you can have structures and processes like implementation of 45,001, and it could look the same around the world, but local implementation looks different. And so last evening when you provided that the idea of, you shared with me, just from an American perspective, are Native Americans. They are very close in the United States, are very close to the environment.
Yeah.
And that was how I understood
Yes.
what you were talking about in terms of Japan being
Yeah.
with the shrine and, you know, the energy of,
Yes.
of all things.
Yes. I think that's our job to translate that kind of mindset to the Japanese, to how we mix everything and then enhance or ensure the safety as a culture to incubate.
And it ties into that whole maturity concept, right? It kind of ties you, absolutely goes right back to the fact, and that's a tenet of ISO 45001, right? You're not going to start having 100% implementation. Right. You're going to be somewhere on that maturity curve, which I know we'll get to it a little bit later, but L'Oreal definitely is very much has that maturity concept within your systems and processes.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you.
So the question is, what is my personal perspective of the value of health and safety? We have a motto in Siemens for the EHS. That's one world, one life, we care. Doesn't matter strategy, 2020, 2011 or 2025, one life, one world, one life, we care. And this resonates with me. This is my personal value in how I see health and safety. Because each of us are individuals. And I would say that I'm the most precious things for my mom. My sister is not here to listen, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm far away, so for my mom, everything changed when I go home. So I can wish for everything she will prepare she do. So I think that I'm the most precious thing that she has. I take it. So in joke aside, and I think we need to look to this as every life that we touch is one life that matters to their families, to their colleagues, to their society, to their neighborhood. And this is the value of respect and care about the people and the planet. I don't know how much of you had heard about the nature positive. So environment protection is getting a bit crazy sometimes with all the regulatory framework and so on. And we always discuss about stopping the clock, stop the warming of the planet and so on. But what we realized that everything that we had done is not enough. So the new concept is really looking to nature positive, meaning that we need to really do more to the nature. And I would say is health and safety positive. It's not about prevent risks, right? It's about prevent risks, but promote the support. When we talk about mental health, it's okay to not be okay. And this is promote a place of trust and a place where people can really ventilate sometimes their own concerns. It is about improve. It's not just prevent and make the bare minimal. It's going beyond. It's really improve not the workplace, but the life of this individual. Is provide a solution, equip them with new capabilities, with new set of tools that they can also bring back to their families and their society. So for me, is the value of health and safety. One life, one world, we care, and we care by creating, yes, prevent risks, mitigating risks, but it's about promoting a place of belonging. It's about really improve the quality of life of the people, put people at the center of everything that I do.
It's always fun when you get to go last and three brilliant people speak, isn't it? That was lovely. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. I really also enjoyed the point about mythology. And I think sometimes we are ignorant to other cultures and things that influence safety. If I really think about safety, I think it's a bit of a myth. And what I mean by that is safety is very individual. We walk around as safety professionals and we tell people what's safe, which is ridiculous, because what I find safe is different to what Andressa finds safe, to Kazu, to Rebecca, to each of you. Safety is an individual perspective. But when we're talking about safety in this context, we're talking about safety from an occupational perspective, aren't we? We're talking about safety in the workplace and how our work has a wider impact societally. So I'm going to focus on that bit rather than tell you that safety doesn't exist. That's probably not helpful. So I'm quite fortunate that I've been able to align my personal perspective on occupational safety with my organisational perspective, or rather they've adopted my personal view, which is nice of them.
Both worked.
And I'm not sure they realised that's what they were doing at the time, but it's what's happened. So we're all very grateful. And what I really think safety is about is enabling people to thrive. It's about enabling people to take the best decision that they can in the moment with the information they have to get something done. So I work in I work with incredibly talented people, which I'm very fortunate to do. And we are pushing the limits. We are innovating. We are trying to find the absolute edge. And sometimes we go beyond the edge, which is also when it gets quite exciting because things break or they explode or they set fire. And I'm a weird safety person because I love it when all that stuff happens because, it's interesting. And actually, when you have a personal perspective that there's two things. One, nobody should die for somebody else's profit. That's just the fundamental principle that I hold. Like a workplace should be safe and it should enable you to be healthy and it should be good for your well-being. Like work is a sanctuary for some people. We forget that. And I think if you can bring that into your organisation, then you're on a pretty good footing. So that's kind of where I sit from a personal perspective. We should if we're going to solve some of the wicked problems that exist in the world, we need people to be creative, to be innovative, and to be able to take risks. But we need to do that in a framework, which means that they get to go home, be useful to their families, their friends, their loved ones, to society. That's how we're going to make progress. So, I think that at some point, safety loses its way, because we bring in systems and paperwork and processes and we say, oh, you're not following that, so you must be wrong. And we don't step back and say, actually, what are you trying to achieve? And have you done that in the best way possible? And can we learn from what's going on? So I think that's the kind of dichotomy that we've got at the moment.
Wow. So when we were on our Zoom call to try to decide what the questions were, we really said we needed to start with ourselves, right? And so thus the question to the group about what is your personal perspective on the value of health and safety. And we've heard three very similar perspectives, but said in very different ways. But it's when you have that inside yourself, inside your heart, that is, sorry, I'm going to say it, but your true north. Honestly, it's your guideposts, it's your way, and how you make all your decisions going forward. And I don't know about you, but this is hard work. What we do is hard work. We're not making money for a company, right? We're not out there in the front, so we get all the money, all the funding, no matter what. We actually have to really do some hard work and a whole lot of preparation, right? Evidence-based information, everything we can put forward to get whatever we need to do exactly what you all have said. And the thread that goes through everything, and I love the Siemens, right, with talking about the one world and talking about the caring, because that really kind of brings it home. And it sounds to me, Andres, I mean, you've taken that to heart, and that's how you're leading throughout the whole organization. And I would agree, Stuart, with you, if we don't understand the fundamentals of people, right, we can't help motivate them. So thus, thank you for kind of providing your own personal perspective, because that really is your lamppost, right? Your guiding principles for everything you do. And frankly, when you're working so darn hard, you keep moving. There's the courage to keep moving forward. But there are successes that are happy, but sometimes it's hard. So does anyone have any questions around the personal side or anything you've just heard? Any questions for the group? All right, we're going to keep moving then. And we're going to talk now, kind of switch. And Andresa, you kind of started talking about how your company, and Stuart, you in particular, talked about how your company, the alignment. But we really want to talk, thank you very much. We want to talk about how does your company actually demonstrate this value of health and safety in the organization? So Stuart, we're going to start with you on this side, and we're going to go all the way to Becky.
So I get to do all the answers and make it really difficult for Becky. You're welcome. I am really fortunate. So my organisation over the last 10 years is, well, I think we've both matured together, I think is probably the best way to describe it. So as I've practiced it being an adult, they've practiced health and safety, maturity. And just recently, we published our ESG report, and in it, safety gets a whole page, which is super. So, well, it's health, safety, and well-being actually. And if you include the well-being bit, which we do, we get 2 pages. So I've done myself dirty there, haven't I? So we get 2 pages in the report, and we talk about the holistic approach to health and safety. So the fact that if we look after our humans, they give us maximum performance, but also if we help them from a health, safety and well-being perspective, they're still useful beyond their time with us as well. So I mean that at the end of each day, at the end of each week, at the end of each year, and then beyond their lifetime with us as employees. That's the aim. So, if you come and work for us, you get lifelong skills that you can take elsewhere. And I think that's really, really important. We really focus on reducing risk where it matters most. So that's kind of a guiding principle. I'm not into dealing with stuff that's insignificant. And we have a philosophy of yes, but how. So if somebody wants to do something, I'll give you an example. We were asked if we could, when we call the brakes down on the car, we use a leaf blower, and it is just a leaf blower that you can buy from a DIY store. I don't know what your hardware store. I'll try and do all the different stores that you might call it. Yeah, Powerhouse. Okay, there's another one I didn't know. And basically, you blow cold air onto the brakes so they don't catch fire. And these were cutting out when we were in warmer climates. So, obvious solution to try and find out what's happening is to turn one on, stick it in an oven and crank the temperature up and see what happens. Now, it's got a lithium-ion battery in it. So if you know much about lithium-ion batteries and ovens, they're not really things that go together. But obviously, we've got a performance need to find out why these things aren't working. So we say yes, like, what do you want to do and how are we going to do it? And you can read all through the manufacturer instructions, contact the manufacturer, what's the safety tolerance that you put into the guidance so that we know what kind of room of error we've got to play with. We're able to monitor the temperature of the unit so we don't go beyond that. We stick it in the oven, we complete the tests, and we find out that that's not the cause of of the problem. Now, the easy answer when someone comes to you and says, can I stick a leaf blower that's got a battery on and in the oven, is no. But that's not the right answer. And I think that's where safety is really important from that perspective. The other thing that we've started to do, which I think is quite powerful, is, and we call it stories that stick. When we are either kind of doing something proactively and investigating things or doing something from a reactive perspective, once we've done it, we issue something what's called the problem solution benefit communication. So we clearly communicate to everybody in the organisation what the problem was that we were dealing with, what the solution is that we put into place, and then what benefit it's brought. So sometimes that might be we've saved 48 hours of time in terms of setup as a result of some of the ergonomic changes we've made to equipment. Other times it might be as simple as actually we've just eliminated, a risk that somebody's exposed to, or we've just actually had to add an extra control in, which we identify might slow things down in the short term, but in the long term, it's better for us. And what you find is that when somebody really understands the nature of the problem, what you've put into place and why, they just run with it. And then the final thing I'll say is, sometimes we, like everybody else, we have a knee-jerk reaction to things. So something might go wrong and we very quickly put something into place to deal with it in its immediacy. If you don't keep an eye on that thing, it becomes a norm, and then it becomes like folklore, and then it just exists in its own space and nobody really remembers why we did it in the first place. If you intervene sooner and check back through that and say, actually, have we changed in the appropriate way to now manage that risk effectively, you can remove some of those immediate control measures and come back to a place that makes work easier for people. So I think I would really encourage people to kind of go back through their organisation, check if you have any legacy control measures that are no longer effective, and pull them out and help your workers to have a space that is easier for them to complete the work that they do. So hopefully that kind of gives you an alignment of like what I'm all about and what the organisation is all about, and that is how does safety drive performance.
And I hear adaptability in all of that, right? The ability to be able to say how is so important. And this is something that I just know about you, Stuart, is push the envelope, right? Ask those questions that really make people stop to really think, whether they're provocative questions or they're as simple as, why are we still doing this? So thank you. Thank you for those really good examples and kind of driving this home for us. Thank you. Andresa.
So how Siemens demonstrate, develop health and safety? I would say that it starts from our priorities. So the company has 4 priorities. One is customer centricity. I think this is obvious, check the mark. But the second is technology with purpose. With more than 175 years, is not technology but the sake of technology, the technology with purpose. And there is a quote from Werner von Siemens, one of the Siemens founders, that says, and I just copied to not quote wrong, is, I will not set the future for short-term profit. And he said this more than 120 years ago. So I think this is embedded in our DNA. But then come the third one, empowered people. It says better and fast decisions are made by empowered people. And then the fourth one is the growth mindset. Try, learn, and improve. So when you have these in the strategy of the company, it's quite nice to translate this and say, it's easy. Empowered people, they can only perform and take a decision if they are healthy and if they are safe. Then they can perform. Then they can take better decisions. Then they can try. Then they can learn. Then they can improve. And then we can serve our customers with the best of our ability. But this is not enough, at least for me. How do we do this? So of course we have our sustainability report, ASG report. So we have also a dedicated page for health and safety. takes me a lot of effort to write that things every single year. Yeah, I need to go to many reviews. It's part of the process. But for me, the most important thing is Siemens put out a commitment, ambition, committed in work well-being, that keeping a high score in the work well-being for our teams. It means that it's not enough to say I do, it's saying to the entire society, and you can check this in the internet page of Siemens, that it's under the people in people centricity, and you have one company target that is keep the work well-being score above 8%. And the work well-being score it's comparable because it's from the Oxford University, so you have some academia proving this, so it's not something that we create and say, oh, we are good on that. Yeah? Because sometimes I see companies putting out targets, and then when you go to the methodology, yeah, I can also do something like that, but it's comparable. Can we benchmark? And I think this commitment is not easy. Yeah, we operate globally in more than 160 countries. We have geopolitical crisis going on. We have economic crisis going on. We have parts of the business that are not perform as we would expect. Yeah, our teams, they have families, and families, they have problems, and problems in family also reflect on the job. When I started my career, I remember that my boss said, yeah, personal problems are out of the company. I was like, how do I separate that? As a young professional, you know, I was like, I'm the same person out and in. So, and I think this is the very old mindset. So it's not possible. We are just unique, one life, and one being that has problems. And this comes. So it's a very ambition topic. It's a very ambition task to keep up, because there's so much things that we cannot control that can influence the work well-being score. But we put there, and this is a commitment from our managing board. And therefore, it's easy to demonstrate, or not easy to demonstrate, but shows the commitment, how much they care. And they caring make me really happy and say, we share the same values. Then I'm work gladly to you, yeah?
Yes. Alignment. And the fact that it's all integrated, you know, your business partner, and you're just aligning with strategy, with culture, and to your point, values. Thank you. We all need to hear that. We all need to work for Siemens. All righty. So we'd like to hear a little bit more from a Japanese perspective, Kazu.
Yes.
And L'Oreal.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the L'Oreal a little bit. As Ace said, and then Malcolm said, we have a very flexible program to adapt based on the stage of the organization, safety cultures. So from so primitive to very mature, culturalized organizations. For example, our Japanese Gotemba factory, which is under the Fuji Mountains, they have 50 years histories, and then they are really good safety culture spontaneously, and they are observing the risk assessment every day, and then manage the risks very properly. However, on the other hand, for my office, so to speak, the head office, just a desk and a PC, and the office worker, who I cannot find who is taking care about safety. No one knows about safety, and no one think about safety. A lot of stuff is stuck, piled on evacuate areas. No one takes care about extinguishers, fire extinguishers. So such kind of level of the organization, we can provide the right tool for right place. I just Ace said, life tool, life incident, life-threat incident, and a fatality event risk assessment. That's the really basic one to assess the risk in the office and then also manufacturing side. And also, as a second stages, that kind of a PDCA cycle is go around spontaneously and then also by each manager or each department. And next, go beyond. So that's we tied up with RoSPA, Vicky, the safe at work, safe at home. So such kind of a concept we are trying to install in Japan, especially after the COVID. During the COVID, that everyone is realized that really important to be safe at home. And then also before the COVID, no one takes into consideration of safety at home. Yeah. Telework or work from home is not popular in Japan until the COVID. And then suddenly everything is upside down. Everyone is going work at home and then so separated. And it's not well organized and everything is disparate and no control about the safety. As if something happened like a disease or injury, no one reported. Yeah, and then for my offices, it's my second year to work as a safety professional in L'Oréal Japan. Now we are trying to start to hold the safety days, annual safety days, as you saw yesterday or today, to enhance their mindset, or employee mindset, or motivate our employee. And also started road safety. It's really important. The L'Oréal fatality rate is very low, but about the road safety, it's still really risky at the moment. Not only for the salesperson, but to commute. We lost 2 precious lives during these 2 years in L'Oréal. And we take it very seriously in Japan. We installed the alcohol checker connected with the IT system to ride on the car. They how can I say check the alcohol in the breath, and then take a picture to breath, and then get approval to ride the car. Such kind of activity now we are doing at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks for giving us that perspective of the global and what it looks like locally, and specifically in Japan.
So we are thinking globally, but act locally. And then based on that stage, the maturity stage, for Japanese headquarter office worker doesn't think about the risk and then safety and hygiene and mental illness. So how that's big theme for me. How I can contribute to the 2,000 more employees to protect our employee and then also the family.
Right. Right. And we're hearing a thread through everyone so far that it is outside of
Yes.
the company and inside, because it's one worker,
Yeah.
right? It's one person,
Yeah.
no matter where they are.
Yeah, the rural is taken. Now we are trying to expand our boundaries to not only for the families but also supplier.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, to ensure their safety, and then also they have enough. How can I say? Enough money to work at the supplier. To before we contract, we make sure they are doing that. Take care of the employee of a supplier. If for fragrance product, you can imagine the jasmine is taken at the farm in Egypt or somewhere else, and then such labor is taking care of it about safety. No child is working there. Such kind of activity we are taking it very seriously. Yeah.
That's truly the people side of sustainability, isn't it? When you're looking at
Yes.
at your supply chain as well.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well,
Thank you. Yeah, it's not great going last, is it, Stuart? Anyway, I think that if you work for a charity or a mission-based organisation, as I do, then I think there has to be alignment between the vision that your organisation has and your own personal ethical and moral code. Like, you really have to feel a part of that. I would say, privileged to be the chief executive of RoSPA. It is, to me, it's a responsibility that it's not responsibility to answer the board. Of course I answer the board, but that's not my problem, frankly. It's a responsibility to do right by the mission and do right by the vision. And it's also, to me, a sort of sense of custodianship, in that I want to hold this organisation that means so much to me carefully. I want to nurture it and see it grow, and I want it to be sustainable for future generations, because I think what we do is so important, and I am a very small temporary part of something that is frankly far bigger than the sum of its parts. And within all of that, I think that perhaps the area where we as an organisation most strongly demonstrate the value that we see in good health and safety is in our Occupational Health and Safety Awards scheme. So it's something that I feel so proud of. It's been going for nearly 70 years. It started in the UK, but it now has entries from over 60 different countries. I think last year it had a reach of 7 million employees. And to me, that's 7 million people working in parts of the world that we would find it very hard to reach, all of whom are working in a way that is better than it would otherwise be, frankly. And I find that incredible, really. I think within the awards, there are probably 4 main facets why I think it really demonstrates these values and why I feel so strongly about it as a force for good, frankly. The first one I would say is about leadership and visibility from the top. You know, we all know that for anything to succeed, it kind of has to have that board recognition. It has to matter to the people up there. And at a very concrete level, every entrant for the RoSPA Awards, of whom there are many thousands every year, that is signed by a board level director. That is somebody in that organisation stepping up and giving a visible commitment to the workers, to the wider board, to their wider stakeholders, that they're owning this, that they care about this. And I think that's really, really important. I think as well, like both Andressa and Stuart have mentioned, you know, we know that award winners like M Group Services, Wales and West Utilities, they put these accolades front and centre in their ESG reports, because a RoSPA award is shorthand for people first performance. That's what it means. So I feel proud of their pride, if that makes sense. You know, it matters to me that people work hard for these awards. They're not easy. We're not giving them away, but they win them and they feel rightly victorious and they rightly shout about that because they see a real value in the thing that they have achieved. I think my second reason why I value the awards so much is that they do provide a recognised yardstick for ESG metrics in the supply chain. And we see this across a whole raft of things. So, you know, we talked a bit in a panel I was in yesterday about almost recognising the privilege of the organisations that get to be at events like this. Like, we are not representative of the SMEs that predominantly populate the nations that we're from. An awful lot of organisations don't have any dedicated health and safety expertise. It sits with other people and all those sorts of things. And yet within that, we know from contractors that if they are successful in achieving a RoSPA Health and Safety Gold Award, that is shorthand for they've done what needs to be done. They win contracts off the back of that. It's that simple. And I think that's fantastic as a driver and a motivator, frankly. And I'm really, really happy for that kind of whole cohort of you know, organisations that drive society. On the same point, though, but kind of at the other end of the spectrum, and as Kazu's just alluded to, and again, it goes to this whole point that we're making about, you know, things kind of extending and going beyond, is the value when larger brands use the awards as a verification tool through their supply chain. Now, isn't that powerful? So, you know, a perfect example being Nike, a brand that everybody knows. So, you know, Nike used the RoSPA Health and Safety Awards scheme as part of their supplier health and safety assurance. So I think they joined 3 years ago and they had something like 24 of their suppliers entered in 2023. They grew that to 64 the following year, and this year they've had 91 of their supplier sites win a RoSPA award because they have essentially mandated, if you want to work with us, this is what we expect from you. And if you just pause and think about what that means, then again, these are parts of the world, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, they're not necessarily easy for us to reach. These factories don't just work with Nike. These factories, you know, they provide labour that will go on and work in other places, to answer Stuart's point, or they have many other sites that they themselves work with. All of them have been on this journey through our relationship with Nike because they see the value in using their strength and using their credibility to raise up their supply chain. And I cannot take my hat off enough to the kind of the visionary leadership at Nike that decide that's how they want to work. And in fact, it's because of Nike that I'm here today, you know, as a representative of a charity, able to attend an event like this because they want me to come here and they want me to spread the word. They want me to, you know, hold them up. Not in any wow-woo, look at us way, but just because there's real life benefits for people for this. So why wouldn't we want to talk about that? And why wouldn't we all want to perhaps plant that seed that people can go on and think about? Another reason why I think the awards are so important is this whole culture of reflection and recognition. You know, we all know the value of just pausing and looking back and assessing. Winners describe the process of the awards. And as I say, it is, frankly, hard work, but they describe that as the best internal audit they could ever have. Just that need to go back and pause and reflect. And as a result of that, it's the targets they set. It's the continual improvement journeys that they go on. But a really big bit for me is, and I think it's why I feel so humbled when I meet RoSPA award winners, and I cannot tell you what a varied bunch they are. Like, I don't know how I would, you know, what commonalities they are because they come from all sectors, all nations, you know, they really are. But I feel humbled by the fact that without exception, these people are united by doing incredibly difficult, often very stressful, very lonely jobs, and most times, the only opportunity where they are on the board's agenda is when things go wrong. So the real value, in some ways to me, of the RoSPA Awards is we turn that around and we hold people up for being the, frankly, superstars that they are, for things going right. And that's something they can take to their bosses and say, right, maybe you don't care about when I say it, but here's RoSPA, here's my gold, silver, bronze, who cares? Here's an actual award from a recognised, independent, long-standing, reputable organisation. And it's the buzz that people get from that. And why would we not want workers on the shop floor, on every level, why would we not want them to feel celebrated and to feel motivated and to feel a part of something that matters? So how incredible to get to be a part of a scheme that delivers all those benefits. And I cap it off by saying there's a real business dividend from all of this. I know, Kathy, we like to take it back to business because that's how decisions are made in the real world. There is a real world business dividend to being a RoSPA award winner. I think that it helps you convert the moral imperative of having safe workforce into something measurable, something sustainable, and real value that your business can recognise and invest in and continue to go on and improve. So, to me, that's why it's such a win-win all round, Kathy.
And third-party validation.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
Of that you're doing well and you're doing it at a level that is either comparable or above and beyond your peers. And that's good for business. That's competitive advantage. Yes, I love that. So
I'm going to recruit Kathy.
I'm the business
What
gal.
she said.
But we can't forget what we started with, which is that moral side, right? It's in our heart and why we are doing this. And each one of you have shared your personal perspective. You've shared the business. And what we've heard, hopefully you've heard today, is that there's alignment. So if you think about what we're looking at is alignment within your organization around health and safety. And I love the fact you have 2 pages or more in your ESG. I mean, I've been at this for, my gosh, since Malk, you and I have been at this forever in terms of the sustainability, and then ESG came around. But that health and safety is foundational, right? We are foundational to sustainability and specifically ESG. Those metrics are right there and they're being asked for. So this is really good news. Used to be, does anyone in your companies have a ESG or a sustainability report or report in your annual report around health and safety? We have 1, 2. Yes, anyone else? All right, well, hopefully it is going in that direction. Probably about 7, 8 years ago, I'd get maybe 1 person in the room, and now we have several people in the room. And the large multinationals, they have to do it, right? Because the investors, it's an imperative. So today, you've seen how we've all come together with alignment. We've heard about integration with safety and health within the business at all levels, right? We've learned about the RoSPA awards and a lot of the research that's being done and a lot of the initiatives outside of the companies and inside, so the road safety, for example. And we've learned a lot about, how are things translated from a large multinational company such as L'Oreal, and what does that look like in a country, specifically because we're here in Japan. And it's really important because that is where everything actually gets done, country by country, right? We can have great processes, we can have great policies and systems and procedures, but if they're not being implemented, and each one of you have talked about empowering, right, and engaging the workforce, and if that doesn't happen, then none of this works. We pretty much go home because none of it is actually going to stick. So what I'd like to do we initially envisioned that we would sort of have like a workshop kind of scenario, but I think we're all together can kind of talk if everybody's up for that. And we're going to maybe another 10 minutes. Everybody up for that? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to put people on the spot. So we're going to just pretend like we're one little breakout group here. Everybody go with that so far? This means you're going to have to talk. So, but as a small group. So the question is, who'd like to share what their own personal perspective is in terms of the value of safety and health? Yes. Thank you. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, so just to build on get a sense example of what L'Oreal has been doing. As you mentioned, we have to have programs, but I think we should be able also to assess the culture of the company because, I think most of us are already familiar with the culture curve from reactive, dependent, independent, interdependent, and way goes beyond to our houses. But if we do not self-assess our position in this culture, we won't be able to implement these programs because the culture should match the programs that we are implementing. Just imagine you have a very low culture, but you have a very high-end programs, and it won't match. It's going to end up to the sewage. I mean, people will not appreciate it. People will not understand it because they could not relate to, because the culture isn't there yet. So I think that's the point that I would like to point out. When we actually implement a program, we have to be in the right culture, whether we are reactive, dependent. We just need to know, we just have to learn to assess ourselves, assess the culture of the company. And I think that's very important.
I quite like that you said the company culture, because I personally, and in my personal opinion, is that I don't see that as a safety culture, quality culture, whatever culture, is the company culture. And the company culture changed from country to country, yeah? And this is for me what I would say is not assess the culture, is assess the context where you are operating. And I think this is much more fundamental that some of the cultural elements on that, because the context where you are operating, understand what do they need, what is their reality there. So you cannot go to one of your manufacturing sites that they are struggling to sell things, so they are in a tough economic situation, and say, here comes the new health and safety program. I mean, understand, is missing some things to pay the bills, so you need to be a little bit more conscious. It doesn't matter if you're in a multinational company. Economic crisis happen in Ireland also, yeah? Overall, company is going good, but our affiliates can be suffering. And I think we need to have I would say self-consciousness to understand the context where we are operating. Yeah. And another element that we need to also take care is that we go to the board and say, here we go, I need investment for health and safety. And if they say no, we say, because you don't care about people. It's not like that. We need to understand that if they maybe invest in something that we are bringing as initiative, they will need to cut in something that can impact more people. So sometimes we are not also in their shoes. So I always say to the people in health and safety, yes, we take care of our people, but we also need to have a business case. We also have to have a return of investment. Yeah, because if we don't care about the economic and the financial health of our operation, it means that this will break, and then the impact in the society is even higher. So context, it's very important, in my opinion. Yes. Sorry.
No, this is excellent. Would you?
Can I just add to that, Cafe? So
Please,
you've said it, but there's 3 C's that I think everyone needs. It's culture, it's context, and it's constraints. They're the things that we should orientate ourselves around, and that's exactly what you said. Like that is it's the golden triangle. Like if you're in the middle of that and you understand those 3 points, then you're setting yourself up for success, and you've got the most chance of the thing that you're trying to influence actually happening. And if you're not aligned in those 3 spaces, it's like pushing water up a hill, and you're gonna it'll get boring very, very quickly.
That's excellent. Who else? Lorraine.
Mine might be to ask for some help. So we heard here that 4 out of 5 preventable deaths occur off the job, if I got that correctly. And I think earlier today, someone quoted 7,000 preventable deaths a day around the world, something like that. So we know that a lot of the risks that people are taking aren't in our walls or wherever our offices are. risks that they're being faced with. And I've really struggled with helping employers understand that the off-the-job is their issue as well. We have the saying at the National Safety Council, we save lives from the workplace to any place, meaning that we are empowering employees with the tools to make sure that they're safe 24/7 with their families and in the communities. But I can't really get to your kitchen table. I can get to an employee. And so I'm doing it through them to the world. We have lots of resources for companies that are off the job, then don't pick them up. And many of them are just free. So somehow I'm struggling with helping business leaders understand the value of the off-the-job contribution that they can make. So I'd love some thoughts on that. How do you make that important to them?
Is that all right if I start, guys? Yep. Cool. Thank you. It's a bit like Andres's point just now in terms of having to make a business case for something. I think it's so important to have the data, to have the evidence, to have the numbers. It's one thing saying that this is the number of people that are harmed outside of work, but if you can then, give some picture as to who and how in numbers that are meaningful, it really helps to elevate that conversation. And one problem that we all have is that there isn't enough good data, frankly. So one of the things that, we campaign for, and, we're by no means alone on this, is better data collection, because that's the foundation of all decision making, isn't it? We all want to be, it's very easy to have good intentions and it's very easy to work hard, but if you don't know where you started from, you can't measure your end point, so you can't actually make a case for any of it. And some of these things could do more harm than good, frankly. So definitely having a real solid numerical understanding of the situation is really helpful. And then beyond that, again, it actually goes back to the conversation that we've just had here, I think, in terms of it's the cultural appropriateness of different responses in different situations. I'm fortunate to have members from our organisation all around the world, and definitely in some parts of the world, there is quite a paternalistic culture where employees are very receptive to advice from their employers in all areas of their life, and they're by nature quite compliant and wanting to do the right things and very keen to take these messages on board, whereas other parts of the world, the UK included, probably have a slightly different relationship to messages coming from our employers and are slightly more cynical about their motivations and, why you would be talking to me about something that's potentially none of your business, etc. And I think there's a real value for a independent third party kind of not-for-profit voice getting involved. I think it's really hard for a corporate organisation to talk to their employees on anything to do with their lives outside of their immediate jurisdiction, because I think there's a lot connected with that in terms of how those messages will land. But I think the benefit of partnering, as RoSPA do with L'Oréal, for example, with an organisation that exists purely in that charitable, not-for-profit, evidence-based sphere, is you are collaborating to do something that neither one of you can do alone. I can't reach L'Oréal's employees, but equally they can't produce the types of messages that together we produce and let them land in the way that together they land. So it's a real kind of synergy. So there's a few things in that, but hopefully some of them are a bit of use at some point.
For me, there's one element that connects things here. It's really when an employer come to talk in a very generic way. So this is my campaign, we are having those kind of things. But when you have a leader that call the person, say, hey, what's going on? Then it's different. So we have in Siemens one thing that is health, leading health and safe. That's really empowered our leaders to really look and be leaders that can recognize the first symptoms of a burnout, for example. The first symptoms of something is off. This person is not behaving the normal. Something that could lead for incident afterwards, right? So there are indications, and again, the statistic is quite generic. It's really hard to get to the board and say, we have this statistic, okay, how about our own organization? And sometimes it does not reflect the organization reality. The other element is for us, for example, we put the EAP, so the employee assistant beyond the basic stuff. So that goes and your family can also use, and I think it is empowered a lot, the culture of care, and it's globally, it is. And this can help starting the conversation. But for me, who can make the difference, who can make really difference is the leadership.
So I think what we're hearing is it's different voices that tell the story. So I wouldn't disagree that a leader can make a difference, because that's just truth. I wouldn't disagree that a third party has a different voice that leadership can link into and the employees can align with. There is a third voice, and it's peers. Like, we tell people's stories. Well, they tell their stories to their peers. So we have a wellbeing program. We get about 80% of our organisation go through it. It's not mandatory, but it is available for everybody. And for quite a long time, I've been frustrated by the 20% that don't come. And they don't come for various reasons, like they're scared for what they might find out. They don't want to be told they're not well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've found incommunicable diseases where people have had early treatments, and essentially we've saved their lives. And what we did as a result of that, the individual, because it had such a big impact for them, they did a video to the whole organisation. It included their son and their family. It was the personal story of the journey they'd been on, what had happened, the support that the organisation had given them, and ultimately the difference it had made to them. And I think when you hear somebody else that you stand side by side with day after day, working with, telling you the story of what's happened, it has so much power. So I think if you're struggling to get leaders to be able to engage with people to get into the benefit of stuff, go to the peers in the organisation, get people who've used these things and then had the successes, and play that back to the leadership, because they'll be moved. Like, we're all humans, and the human story is the thing that connects. Stories like one of the oldest art forms, like, going. I do, like, quite often when I do a presentation, I'll ask people to put their hand up if they know a story from the Bible. And generally most people are able to put their hands up. And it's a book that's over 2,000 years old. If you ask that same group of people what their LTI statistics are for 2024, the vast majority of those hands go down, because the statistics mean nothing. The human story passes from person to person to person. The human story of somebody that almost lost their life goes through that organisation much faster than we've had a lost time injury. That, I think, is one of the most powerful ways that you can get people to buy into what's going on, is to hear it from people that look and sound just like them.
Wow.
Just one story quickly.
Okay.
I remember once back in Brazil, responsible for one location. And you know, Carnival in Brazil is quite challenging. People drinking, drive. And I decided to do an event because this is very close to my heart. And then I called the people, and then we're like, everybody, And I was so upset that they were not engaged, they were not caring. And I stand up and I told them my story. We had no incident in that year that people were involved in incidents in the car during the carnival season. And out of curiosity, my father died in an incident when I was 6 years old, because a guy was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And this was the first time that I said this in public to 500 people, and I had tears in my eyes. That year, nobody missed the work after the carnival. Peer-to-peer.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yes. So, Malk, in 30 seconds. Oh.
I was going to reply to Lorraine.
Oh, excellent. And then we're going to close out. Thank you.
we found with Safe at Work, Safe at Home, we found the United States a difficult nut to crack. And there is a big focus on pure occupational. And it's like it's not my job to go beyond the boundaries, right? And for countries like, I'm going to say China, Brazil, India, Indonesia, they just took it like that. And and the reason being is this big sense of family, you know, extended large families, and it seems to be part of going back to the culture. But even that within L'Oréal, through RoSPA, we actually provide a lot of briefing sheets that are open to the public, jointly called Wellbeing for Life. The L'Oréal people don't go there. It's like an effort to go on the website sometimes and, you know, log in, blah, 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 blah. And it's open, most of it is not behind the firewall as well. So we take it, the way we get out, we take it, we put it in our own internal newsletters and send it out. And then we had to think differently for the US. And when we integrated health and the safety day around about the 28th of April, with etc., the US went for that. And bit by bit, it was one bit. But we seem to constantly be giving them the information rather than them going for searching for it. I don't know, and I think it comes down to these things of my job is occupational. That's what I'm paid to do, and I don't go beyond the gates, which I find quite strange. I think it's changing, but if you don't mind the expression, when you think it's a cultural maybe, and I don't think they come to it. I think there needs to be a different way for them to take it on board. So, and that wasn't 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
No, but very important. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And as the token American, it's also legal. You know, we have our legal liability in the U.S., which precludes a lot of things. It's not good or bad; it just is. It's cultural, and it makes those barriers or boundaries for a company, a U.S. company, a little more difficult. I don't know if you agree with me. We are a token Americans. Yes, yes. Well, and I think your organizations, right, around the world, you're driving this, and it's important for all of us. So with that, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I want a huge round of applause for our panelists. Woo! Yes. I don't know about you, but this was a wealth of information for boots on the ground, people doing this work, and we really appreciate you being here with us today. So with that, they're going to close the door at a little bit before 6. So thank you so much for being here, because this is late in the day. Thank you.